I have made my clients nearly over $2 million with funnels. And if you have a funnel, you need to understand that people don't come into your funnel just from views or likes or paid ads that you're running. People come through the funnel through pipelines. And you need the right pipelines to make sure that the people coming from your social media platforms, your emails, etc., they're getting into the right pipelines and then getting into the right steps of the funnel. Because if you have the wrong pipelines, or if you just have no pipelines actually set up and you just have one straight shoot going into your funnel, you will realize that you're very capped with how much you can make with your coaching business. And you will realize that nothing is really moving forward. You're not making money. You're not really seeing results. Your funnel seems to be falling apart in every single realm because there are holes in the funnel. There are holes in the funnel when there's no pipelines to fill those holes. So I'm going to cover a couple of the pipelines that we have in place for most of our clients. Just a side note, not every client has each and one of these pipelines. Some clients tend to have just a few of these and some of them have more, which are probably not over here. But these are the traditional ones that you really need to have. Depending on if you're doing a sales call funnel, you're probably gonna need or not need this booked calls pipeline. Like for example, if you're running a program without a sales call, a funnel without a sales call funnel, then you wouldn't really need this pipeline, for example. So I'm just gonna put that out there before you get into this part of the video, because I don't want to mislead you guys thinking that you need certain pipelines when you don't. And real quick, I'm going to dive deep into it, I promise. If you are a coach, creator, consultant, online business owner that wants to scale your coaching business, check the link in the description. I'm not going to sell you on it. You can take action yourself. So active waitlist. Active waitlist is the pipeline that we use when we have an active waitlist. So when we have a type form being put out to a creator's audience on emails, stories, link in bio, etc., and we're trying to gather other market research and or a wait list, we push out a type form, right? And when responses come through, we then automate it such that they come through into the new opt-ins and they just populate this entire stage. So these are called stages, by the way, and these are called pipelines. And once they populate this stage in this particular pipeline, us as operators and the sales team can then see every single day the people coming through. And we even automate this by having a Slack channel set up in your workspace. So every time there is a new opt-in, we get pinged. And this keeps us very much alert in live time as to like how many people are actually coming through the waitlist, rather than having to open up the CRM again and again and again just to see how many people came through. And I'm not going to really get into why you need a market research or why you need to do a waitlist. You can check out my other videos if you want to find out more in-depth stuff about these certain things. But this video is strictly just about the pipelines that you need to have depending on your funnel. So called once, called twice, called 3, called 5 times. These are basically the stages that the dialer would be using when it comes to like the early access period, probably 24 to 48 hours before the launch, where they can call up the people that sign up for the waitlist and see if they qualify for one or more of the coaching programs. In most cases, it's just a high ticket if there is a dialer in place. And then if they do not respond after 5 calls, they get put here. You just drag them here. And if they're just unqualified, either financially or geographically or any other circumstances, they're going to be moved into the unqualified. If they do get called up and they get booked into a sales call for the high ticket coaching program, they then get put into the booked stage. Now, every single time the lead is interacted with, we make sure that the sales team is leaving notes over here. Like for example, Josh, one of the dialers at that time, he left a note saying no pickup, call twice, blah, blah, blah. So people then, like us sales reps, we then know exactly what happened with this particular lead. Before another sales rep contacts the same lead again, they would rather contact them after knowing the history of the lead so far, right? So it's so important, guys, that when you're calling up people as a dialer, as maybe a DM setter as well, if you're reaching out to people, you need to make sure that you know exactly what the previous interactions, the previous conversations have been like with that particular lead. So if you're a coach watching this video, make sure that your sales representatives are being very careful with how they approach every single lead, because the number of times I've had to correct people and honestly fire people because they consistently did the wrong things by just like not reading the past conversation with the lead, which was clearly outlined. It's quite astonishing. I had a certain closer that closed someone. Okay, well, this lead was involved with the setter and a closer, and the setter set this lead into a sales call, and the closer said that he couldn't close them because this person was already in the program. And so you can already see like the big issue with that, right? But anyways, let's not get derailed. Booked calls, this is if you have a VSL to book in a call funnel. New calls that come through here, and then every time a new call is booked, immediately or as soon as possible, the dialer should call them up to make sure that they do indeed financially qualify, and they can then have a look at the notes that they submitted in the type form. So I believe this is notes left by actually one of the dialers, which is amazing, Seth. And you can see over here, this part here is automated. As you can see, it's created by Zapier, where we can see all the responses from the type form. So we ask questions. There's a couple more questions on the type form, but only the important questions with the responses come over here. And then the dialer, before they call them up, has information saying, okay, this person submitted this as a response. This person has an investment budget of 1.5 to 2K. So let me call them up and re-mention that and see if that is actually true or not. Now, these pipelines look a bit empty right now, as I said, because it's a former client. And this sub account is technically inactive. But unqualified, no show, no close, these stages are basically for the closer to use, and this depends on the outcome of the sales call, right? So this can be sort of reorganized and probably compressed into just like 2 or 3 stages. But I just like to have it sort of spread out sometimes. But once again, this is just depending on preference. Like you can, for example, combine both of these into just closed and then just insert it in the notes and say, if it was a PIF or a payment plan or a deposit. Like you can technically combine like most of these things, but it's completely up to you. And once again, we try to automate every step of this process. So yes, these sales reps do have to drag them into like certain places sometimes. But sometimes it's just automated where, for example, if they close the call, it'll automatically come into this stage over here rather than having to manually move them in there. But in some cases, you would have to do it manually as a setter or a dialer or a closer, simply because it's really subjective, right? Moving on, cancel by contact. This is a pipeline I made a while back, but it's been the most effective, I'd say, and I don't think many people have these in place. I don't think many coaches have this in their CRM. And so let's talk about this. So canceled by contact just means when a sales call is canceled by a lead, by a prospect, by someone that wanted to actually buy the coaching program, right? It doesn't depend on how they booked in the first place. If they booked in by themselves or if they booked in after a sales rep reached out to them. This pipeline is configured through the automations I've created, which is going to be another video. This pipeline is specifically when the customer cancels. So when people get called after they book in a call in the booked calls pipeline, if the sales rep calls them up and they pick up and they don't qualify because they probably lied about how much money they have, or they, for whatever reason, just are not qualified, as you can see over here, there have been quite a few unqualified people, and the dialer just moves them over here and just leaves notes and says they're unqualified. So when this happens, right, the sales rep cancels the call, meaning that they wouldn't come up in this pipeline. So this only happens when they've either responded to an SMS or an email and clicked certain links to cancel the call, because to cancel the call as a customer, you have to actually be intentional. It doesn't happen accidentally, right? And so what we do here is that we get the dialer to call them up and or text them, depending on the past history of the customer, obviously. In most cases, there is a triage 3-way group chat with the setter, the setter/dialer, closer, and the lead, in which there's already a WhatsApp group chat, so they can hit them up over there, call them up, and just ask them why the call got canceled. Like, why did they cancel the call? In most cases, you will see that they just wanted to reschedule, and instead they just, cancel the call, because they couldn't find the reschedule button, which happens, right? And that's the whole point of having an SDR team, a sales development representative, is to make sure that this is taken care of. Now, as you can see here, from what I understand, even though this offer is currently inactive, the fact that there's 50 people here not moved in the pipeline just means that the sales team on this offer was not actually locked in. And we tried our best, well, we didn't try our best to actually make sure that they're locked in, because our sales manager at that time was also getting pretty spread thin with his own work. And so the last thing you want to see, guys, is like seeing people in the first stage of the pipeline just not being handled for days on days on days. You need to make sure that your sales team is fully locked in, make sure that they have the right EOD reports, making sure that your sales manager is tracking this and spectating this every single day, at least like 3 times a day, to make sure that people are indeed moving from this to this to this to this. Otherwise, you're just going to have a huge pile of people in the first stage of a certain pipeline, and those are the people that you have to hit up immediately. Like, as soon as you see them over there, you have to hit them up. So that's just a side note, and that's just me being completely transparent. I could just say that we did the best job possible and we got all the sales, we handled every lead, but clearly we didn't, right? Like, we are the operators and we had a sales manager for this offer, but he was doing too much. He was an operator as well. He was also doing sales management. He was also doing sales training, and he just couldn't quite follow the requirements of a sales manager, and we only saw that in hindsight. Long story short, have a good sales manager, or don't have one and just do it yourself. If you have a business partner, you can split it in halves. Moving on, exclusive offer. So this varies a lot once again. Exclusive offer is basically a downsell, like a mid-ticket or a low ticket. In most cases, it's just like a mid-ticket, a 3-figure investment into one of the obviously programs, right? So this can be used, for example, when people on the type form say that they have less than 1K to invest. You can automatically just redirect that type form into like a separate, I guess, pipeline within the type form, a different flow within the type form, and redirect them to a separate landing page for this exclusive offer with its own VSL maybe, as well as what they get for, $297, $497, or $97. And then every time that you get someone purchase or show interest on that certain landing page, in most cases just like new sales, I'm gonna give you a quick side note. So we actually did $497 offer for this particular exclusive offer, and we did a sales call funnel still for this, because even though closers get 10% and 10% of $500 is like $50, the people on this offer that we gave the opportunity to were like extremely new to sales, but we trained them up so well that they were just hungry to make money. And so we were like, okay, let's just make it a mid-ticket sales call funnel for this exclusive offer. Hence why we have new calls, called once, called twice. But if I was to redo this again, I would not do that again. Simply because it's just not much of an ROI on it. You'll make some money, but you'd much rather have those time slots available for the closers to use for the main high ticket sales calls. Because if they get the calendar booked out with the exclusive offer stuff, which is what happened in a lot of the days, there was not enough time slots for the actual high ticket. And you see the big issue here, like you're maxing out the mid ticket sales, but the high ticket sales are like, there's still a demand for it, but there's not enough hours in the day to actually book them in. So once again, if I was to redo this, I would just make this a very simple pipeline. I'll call it exclusive offer. I'll just have this starting at new sales. So I would just have this, like, if this was a $297 product, a $97 product, there would be no sales call involved, obviously. And every time a sale was made on that certain product, payment, paywall, gateway, whatever you want to call it, it would come over here. And then you can have emails as these stages, which lead up to the high ticket sale, for example, the high ticket offer. So this exclusive offer pipeline is just really subjective to how you want to do it. You have to personalize it for your vision, your objective, and your end destination. FLMs is free lead magnets. Okay, so free lead magnets are basically lead magnets. So That's not a good way to put it. Free lead magnets are basically resources that you give to your customer, like free value you give to your audience to gain their trust, right? To ask anyone for money, even if you want to ask someone for $1, like just imagine you're gonna go on the streets and just ask for $1 from somebody. Are you gonna get $1 by just being rude about it and be like, give me $1? Or would you get $1 if you were nice to it? Like, hey, could I please have $1? I really need to go get a frozen Coke, no sugar. Which one do you think would work? Probably the second one, right? Because you were offering something for free by being nice. Like, being nice itself is a free value source, right? That's probably like not the best example of it, but you need to give free value to gain people's trust for them to actually pay you any amount of money, especially high tickets. And so FLMs stands for free lead magnets, and every time a new free lead magnet opt-in came in place, they would just get pinged over here. Once again, for every one of these pipelines, by the way, there's been a Slack channel for it, which gets pinged when someone comes through. Okay, so keep that in mind as well. We had this entire thing just fully automated for the entire team to be vigilant and aware of what's happening every second of the day. And so they come through here. We had our sales reps, our dialers actually call them up to actually see if they're interested in the high ticket. And I don't think many people do this, and I kind of see why. Because let's say you get 100 people come through in the free lead magnets, right? Out of them, you probably get like 5 people interested. Okay, maybe that's quite an underestimation, but let's say 20 people, right? A 20% conversion rate. If every single person of these 100 people picked up and 20% got booked in for a call, that's pretty good. But in reality, let's just assume 100% pickup rate. And let's say we're talking about this other pipeline called active waitlist. 100 calls there, let's say 50 get booked in, which is probably a pretty reasonable stat considering 100% pickup rate, assuming 100% pickup rate and comparing to FLMs. So you see how like the FLMs pipeline to call people up is not going to be as effective. You're going to have to just ramp up a lot of volume. So if you got confused just then, what I'm trying to say is if you have dialers in place trying to ascend people from a free lead magnet that they opted in for into a proper sales call funnel for the high ticket, it's a pretty big leap, right? With that being said, let's just assume that the pickup rate is consistent with any pipeline. It's just like you're going to have a very vast range of the types of people that you're going to be dealing with, which is going to just lead into you having a lower pitch to book rate for this pipeline compared to any other pipeline. Because it's like people are coming here for free value. It's like, yeah, some people will want to watch more of your stuff and ascend themselves into the high ticket. A few of them probably just broke as hell, because it's a free lead magnet. So you can A/B test it, guys. Like I recommend, and this is what I did, is if you're starting off, right, and you're trying to make your coaching program work and you're just like trying to build rather than scale at this point, trying to hit like a certain number and you're like still less than 20K a month, I would just have dialers in place in this pipeline until you hit that mark. And then you can optimize it via like emails and SMS automations and probably retargeting stuff as well, like retargeting ads. Because otherwise, if you're making 100K a month with your offer already, there's no point having dialers in this certain pipeline. Just automate this pipeline via emails and SMS. Emails mainly, but otherwise, if you have dialers in place in your early stages, same protocol, call them 5 times, see if they can be qualified for a call. If they're unqualified, put here. If they don't respond, put here. If they get booked in, put them over here. Moving on, free consultation calls. This was similar to the exclusive offer. Actually, this was more similar to the main funnel. So, you know how the main VSL to book in a call funnel is technically like a sales call funnel, but some people put it as a free consultation call. We just made a separate pipeline and just had like I think a 2-week period or a 1-week period where we just had a different calendar and we just called it a free consultation call. It was just like a different approach to it where we would give them more free value first and then actually see and pitch them at the end of the call and make it a sales call. But it's like they don't know it's a sales call until they are on the call, and if they are interested, they'll actually buy. So I personally wouldn't do it. We didn't find too much success with it. This raises the same problem of when people are just aware that it's like a free consultation call with like no finances needed, they're just like the type of audience that's going to be booking in. It's going to be awful. They're not going to have money. They're not going to come with the intention of having money, and they might get pissed off if you pitch them knowing that it was a free consultation call. Like, no, it wasn't free, right? And with that being said, the other problem that I mentioned earlier a few minutes ago in this video was that your closers will have these calls flooding the calendar, which is going to block up the slots for the actual high ticket sales call funnels, like the sales call of available slots, because those are the ones at the highest ROI, because people come through the funnel to book in a call, or they get booked in from our sales team, and they're aware that this is a financial investment. Like, this is not a free coaching program. This is going to be a paid coaching program. Okay. So, same protocol, that it's like set up the exact same as the booked calls pipeline. The ghosts are people that come through the funnel. So if you're running a funnel from certain platforms, from certain videos, and you have pipelines that are coming through, like a pop-up pipeline, like people have to opt in to a pop-up form to then watch the free training / VSL. If they complete that form, they're on the VSL page, but for some reason they just have not completed the type form and booked in a call, they are then a ghost, right? So if they complete the pop-up and they don't start the type form, they're a ghost. If they complete the pop-up, start the type form, complete their contact info, it's a partial submit, but they don't complete the type form, meaning that they never actually got to the call booking page, they're a ghost. Okay? Now, a ghost is basically a lead that ghosted you in the funnel. That's what it is. You know how when a girl ghosts you, it's like they ghosted you before you probably slept with them? It's the same sort of thing. That was quite irrelevant. But same stages once again over here, just no response, unqualified, booked, because if they are a ghost, your sales team should be calling them up and seeing why they're a ghost. This is mandatory. Like, you need to have this in place 100%. This is not optional. Like, these are the ones that really matter, because these are the people that took action, clicked a few more buttons than the people that just watched your videos and they found to be a bit interested, but for some reason they got distracted, or they probably overthinked a lot. You need to make sure that they're on the right path and sell them in, right? You need to make money. Pop-up, this is the form that I was talking about. When if you're running a funnel where you have people filling out a pop-up form before they can watch the VSL, you should just populate the data over here, call them up, and you either move them into a unqualified, no response, qualified ghost, which I'm going to get into in the next pipeline, or booked. So you might think that the sales team has to like manually move these opportunities across all these different stages, but you don't. Like, a lot of these are just automated. Like, the booked calls is automated. So if they came through the pop-up and booked in a call themselves, you see it comes up as self-booked. It just means that they booked in themselves. And this would just automatically move from all the way here to here as soon as they book, right? So the whole point of automations is just make sure your sales team isn't doing too much manual work. But at the same time, your sales team has to be so locked in that they understand exactly what's happening and why they are doing what they're doing. Because trust me, guys, if your sales team is just like trying to check things off the list and just do things for the sake of it, you're going to realize that your business is just being treated like a trash can where you're just like crumpling up leads, and just like hooping them in there. And it's just like a waste of time. I don't know if my analogies are any good, but they just come to my brain whenever. Qualified ghosts. Qualified ghosts are people that completed the type form. Okay, so different from ghost. These are qualified ghosts. They completed the type form, but they got to that page where they could book in a call, but they didn't quite book in the call in 10 minutes. So you can change how long you want to wait. For my clients, I made it a 10-minute period of if they didn't book in a call after completing the type form with the right questions within 10 minutes of them being on the call booking page where they could book in a sales call, They're then qualified as a qualified ghost because they technically qualified because they answered the Typeform correctly to get to the sales call booking page, but they didn't book in a call. They probably got distracted. They were probably driving. They're probably at work. They probably just overthinked a lot, or they couldn't find an available slot, which has happened so many times, guys. So when this happens, your dialers, call them up, see why they didn't book in. You can refer to their responses on the Typeform to break the ice on a call, because once again, guys, when people, okay, by the way, when people are from like Nigeria and stuff, I'm not even being racist, and they say they have this much to invest, it is a lie. I'm going to say to you now, I'm not being racist, I'm just being honest with you. When you see a third world country book in, just move them to unqualified immediately. You don't even have to call them. I'm going to save you time, coaches and sales teams, like sales reps, if you're watching this video. I'm going to save you a lot of time. If you're working on an offer that is based in a first world country, or at least targeting first world countries for customers, and you see leads come through from third world countries like India, Pakistan, Nigeria, just move them into unqualified. Okay? Just move them there. Trust me. Now you might say, oh, like what if some people actually have the money? Trust me, they don't. Trust me. Like 1% might have the money. And with that being said, just so you don't miss out on anything, just move people here before you even contact them into the unqualified. This applies for like any pipelines that have this stage. Move them here, and then for the day, like once you've completed every other stage that you possibly can, this should be like your last priority stage. You can then be like, okay, let's try to get some more booked in calls and ring up the the unqualified stage in each pipeline, just because that's the last thing I can possibly do right now since I've done everything else. Okay? I'm being completely honest, guys. Like, coaches, you guys are probably like tweaking out every time you guys see leads booking in from third world countries and getting pissed off. Like, these people lied and said they had 3K to invest and they got on the sales call and nothing happened because they had 500 rupees to invest. It's happened so many times, guys. Like, I'm being so honest here. Waitlist, this is kind of similar to the active waitlist. So in this case, the waitlist that I had was basically the leads that we imported manually before we actually activated this CRM. So before this CRM really took place, we just had like a waitlist, and we had a spreadsheet in which we tracked the people being called from the waitlist and like being contacted. It was like a really shabby system initially. And then once we had this entire CRM with the pipelines built out, we then finally imported these leads. And I just put those ones, like the existing leads, into this pipeline. So even though they're like a bit cold because they're probably not being contacted for like weeks or months or days, the sales team can then call them up and see if they have any interest. Because if you have leads, you might as well, make the best out of it. So that's what I had this pipeline for. Same thing once again. Same sort of stages as a lot of the other pipelines. Now, this was a fairly long video, but I hope this makes sense to you guys, because look, if you have a funnel, you need to have a funnel first of all, right? As I said at the start of this video, pipelines is what's going to bring people into the funnel. People aren't just going to jump into the funnel, okay? And the right pipelines in place are so important, because you might actually make something out of funnel. Like if you don't have the right pipelines, like for example, the FLM's pipeline, the free lead magnets, no one's going to trust you, right? There are like so many different stages. Well, there are 4 different stages of audience awareness. And let's say if your audience is at the stage of problem aware, but not solution aware. It's like, okay, they're aware of a problem and they're not quite aware of the solution just yet. You need to probably just give them a bit more free information for them to be open to considering your solution for them. Does that make sense? Like, you need to really gain people's trust. You need to really make sure that you don't have just one pipeline that's like everyone that books in a call. I feel like that's something that you would only have at a certain stage in your business where everything is like, already proven and it's been working for months and you're actually consistently scaling every month. You can then narrow down the funnel to, like, for example, get rid of the pop-up. I would only have the pop-up system in place if you don't have enough leads just yet, because obviously every time someone opts in, you get phone number, email, name, and you can get email sequences sent out to them, and you can even call them up because you have their number, and you just have more leads coming in the CRM, right? But obviously they're like the top of the funnel. At some point, once you have everything automated and taken care of, you can get rid of that and then just have like a type form to book in a call, or just book in a call and have questions on that call booking page, which means that your audience is much more qualified, but that only happens when your content is directed to the ICP much better now than before. So if you're a coach, consultant, online business owner, like coaching business owner, and you want me to build this out for you, or a done for you or a done with you service, there's going to be a link in the description below, J&G operations / either partnerships or / hello, and you can then apply to see if a partnership is possible with us, and we'll have a look at your responses. If we like what we see, we'll reach out to you and organize a private call with either myself and or Jack, my business partner, as well. So that's it, and check out the other videos I've linked in the description as well. I should have probably said this earlier, but I even have a free Telegram, completely free. It's not a funnel, trust me. For coaches, operators, etc., sales reps, even just whoever wants, like whoever likes my videos and wants to learn more and more on a daily basis and just like a more personal level. I drop free voice notes in there every single day, messages, screenshots, and just like really insightful inside information of the markets currently, etc. So if you want to join that, there's a link in the description for that as well. It is free, no strings attached. It's not a free trial. It is just free, cost zero. Okay, I'll see you guys later.